every enterprise will use Hedera. I have no doubt about it, and they won't know about it.
I'm the new best thing, better than you've ever seen. I'm the new best thing, I'm gonna be the king. I bring that ching, ching, ching. Yeah, I'm the new best thing, I'm the new best thing.
Hello and welcome back to Hedera Forum. We're happy you could join us again. As you can see by our screen, we are happy to welcome back to the program Mr. Robert Allen. Hello, Robert. How are you, sir?
Hey, guys. Hi, Jesse. Hi, Brandon. Real pleasure to be back. Thank you.
Thanks for making some time for us. And Brandon, welcome back as well. Good to see you.
Thank you. Thank you. It's a good week to be a Hederian.
Yeah, we were just talking about the background that Rob has there. He's elevating in ranks and is now, what did you say, Legionnaire?
Yeah, it feels like being a community legionnaire being promoted to the Senate. Now I'm on the governing council. It feels like I've achieved the ranks of, the pinnacle that I can go to in Hedera.
A well-earned background there for sure. So thanks for making some time for us. And yeah, let's jump right in. I think I know that you recently spent some time talking with Zenobia and have a podcast coming out that will be released by Hedera. So we're not going to dwell on it, but for our viewers who might not be familiar, maybe you can just give us the Cliff Notes version of who and what Eftpos is and how they impact millions of Australians' lives every day, and what your involvement is with them and Hedera.
Yes, so thanks, Jesse. The Eftpos is national debit card infrastructure for Australia. So every time an Australian makes a card payment with a debit card, it gets routed through the Eftpos network. And so every Australian has an intimate relationship. I mean, it's one of the most trusted brands in Australia. And every card that's issued, pretty much every card that's issued, has a Visa or MasterCard mark on it, like every card everywhere in the world. But it's also Eftpos, so it has this kind of multi-network capability. And then the retailers, the shops that you kind of make your payment in, it gets routed through Eftpos, which happens to be the least cost networking in Australia, which means that for the purposes of the merchants who, and these are tough times for physical merchants, right? Gives them a real benefit against the other options. And so that's the traditional payments business. It's been around in various forms for 30 odd years. And then a couple of years ago, a new digital strategy was proposed and signed off by the board to expand into adjacent and complementary areas. So a move into e-commerce and online shopping, the acquisition of a payments wallet, which was called Beemit, digital identity business, which is the business line that I primarily lead, and things like QR payment initiation and other forms of kind of rich data experience for consumers. Because now we've got a consumer touch point through the wallet, we can actually deliver a lot more capability. And then in addition to that, we're opening up APIs so that the fintech ecosystem and startups can interact with our payment rails and our other capability and achieve that network effect. And the other thing that's innovative and unique about Eftpos is that it's not for profit. Its core values are about being good for Australia. And that's part of the DNA of the business, which is great because it gives us the opportunity to focus in areas where other businesses may not be able to because of pleasing shareholders and things. Yeah. And I'm the chief entrepreneur. My actual title is entrepreneur in residence, and which is a thing. It's a title which is born out of Silicon Valley for entrepreneurs who help corporates and VCs to inject disruptive innovation and assist them with an insight in how startups work and how they might be able to both innovate and interact with the startup community.
Well, that's a pretty cool title.
Entrepreneur in residence is hard to say, but it's a cool title, yeah.
Sounds great. Suits you.
All right, Rob. So Hedera just launched this tokenization service, and it seems like it's just in time for the major excitement around tokenization, like non-fungible tokens. What do you think the future of tokenization looks like?
Oh, well, I mean, to quote Mance, everything's going to be tokenized. And it's not just Mance, to be fair. I mean, this narrative around tokenization has been going on for years. You know, the adoption of smart contracts back in 2014, 2015, the ERC20 and then the ERC 721 standard smart contract templates that Ethereum used kind of created that first generation need for the tokenization of, or the creation of digital assets, and then they're kind of pegging to their physical, the physical asset to which they're twinned. But of course, you know, as we all know, those networks, those first and second generation blockchain networks, just can't keep up with the demand. And so having a network like Hedera, which can, and now has this token service, which is right place, right time. I mean, the timing is perfect here. So we need to see adoption quickly, and I think we saw through the hackathon the number of ideas that it creates when people start to get it. For me, you know, having been in the space for a few years, I've thought about it a lot. I've spoken to banks about it who are you know, still trying to work out how they take custody of people's digital assets, how they can protect and store the wealth that is now entirely digital, or actually a digital version of something which is physical, which is in many ways even harder for banks because they've got to also maintain the obligation for, you know, the true asset, the actual asset that one has true ownership over. But the light bulb moment for me was when, I don't want to keep on quoting him, but when Mance said on a couple of months ago on a town hall that this is analogous for the move from centralized databases into distributed databases. Centralized databases have records which store value and as a kind of recorded attribute. We're now taking that value and tokenizing it. So we're, rather than saying X pays, you know, Z amount to Y, we're saying X owns Z amount and has the ability to transfer it to Y. You know, that's a very different, quite subtle, but fundamentally different approach.
Sure.
And as a database guy of, you know, in the old days, it's a real mental paradigm shift in how you now design data structures, not even databases, data structures to enable this to happen.
Yeah.
And it's super, super exciting. And I think, you know, we're seeing it, and the NFT space is pretty hot right now, but it'll continue to kind of expand, and people will work out cool ways. There'll be lots of failures, of course, lots of CryptoKitties, but actually, is CryptoKitty bad on a network like Hedera, where it won't grind to a halt when everyone is super, super excited about, you know, breeding some animated creature?
Yeah, we can certainly thank Ethereum for showing us what is possible, and we could just take it from there, right?
It's the purpose of first generation technology, right? You know, it creates the demand, but doesn't service it. And it's for the next generations of technology to pick up that baton where it's handed over and give it mass adoption.
That's right. That's right.
Well, despite the high fees, they seem like they're doing all right. I mean, I've been personally following it fairly closely. I'm really excited, mainly for all of the artists and all of the creators who are now having this possibility to realize some gains where maybe their work was otherwise just offered for free, and now they're able to sort of monetize it in a way they never could before. So I think that's really neat. Rob, let me just follow up on that. The current NFT sort of space, it's obviously seen a recent boom. How do you envision that? Do you see that being, you know, we're so early on, so there's a novelty in owning something that is so we're so nascent with it that you can say, you know, I own this CryptoKitty or this piece of art, and it's analogous to maybe a rookie card, as it would be in sports, because they were only a rookie one time, and then all of the cards to follow are just more cards. So are we in a honeymoon phase with the way these things are being released right now, or do you see this being sustainable? And then part two would be, how do you see Hedera fitting in? We talked about the high fees, which Hedera obviously doesn't have, but maybe you can expand if you have any thoughts on how you see Hedera fitting into the ecosystem.
Yeah, so all technology adoption goes through this period, doesn't it? It's the analog of the previous thing, whether it be a car, which is called a car because it was a motorized carriage, right? A carriage was a horse and carriage. So that's where those words come from a century or more ago. So people have a mental model of where they currently are, and then they use the new technology and then project or transfer into it. So it's normal, and we're all collectible kind of freaks. I mean, I'm going back to when I was a kid. I had mountains of comic books, superhero comic books around me. I only ever read them once, but the fact that I owned them, the collectability of them was the thing that really drove me and drove my mother spare. So I think we've all got the need to collect something or to own a set of something, or to whether it be for value or for whatever other pleasure we get from them. And as the world and the new generations, the digital natives, are more familiar in the digital space, then why not? You mentioned art. Art is an excellent use case. There's so many breadline artists that now can have a market for their creativity, and it's not just ripped off. Of course, maintaining the peg, creating a physical item that is then where the ownership, the rights to that thing is transferred is the hard part. It's not just sort of encapsulating in code something and then being able to pass it from wallet to wallet. That's the easy part. Technology is always the easy part once you've got it solved, like Lehman has. So I see NFTs going from that rookie card kind of analogy into way better use cases, ones we haven't even thought about. There's a great business here in Australia that does racing horses. You have true ownership of racing horses. Now, they've had to move off Ethereum. Unfortunately, they didn't move to Hedera, although I tried to get them to do that. They've gone to a layer 2 solution. They've gone to Polygon, which was Matic. And a lot of those kind of games are doing that because it's the easy step. But some of them, and then many more of them, I think will come towards Hedera when they realize the benefits of that base layer native beneficial properties, which maintains the security that layer 2 solutions don't. You might get all the speed, but it's the trilemma. You can't escape the trilemma in blockchain. So having a faster, more scalable layer 2 blockchain means that you trade off something else, and it's usually security, which may not be a problem for collectible digital racehorses, but actually when they're changing hands for 4 or 5 ETH, and ETH is $1,500 a pop, which is crazy anyway, then security becomes a real problem. And I think some of these projects will fail terribly because of that. Whereas with Hedera, you can do all the things that those other networks can do, and NFTs in particular being an extension of the Hedera token service, with all the native properties of security, asynchronous Byzantine fault tolerant security. You've got the scalability. You've got stable transaction fees, and it's as over time will become more and more decentralized as the network grows. So I see no reason not to do NFTs on Hedera, to be honest. But then you can do everything on Hedera, so I see no reason not to do anything on Hedera.
Well, along those lines, Rob, I love the quote that you had a while back, and I hope I get this quote right, but you said that all enterprises will use Hedera. They just don't know it yet. Can you elaborate a little bit on that?
Yeah, spot on. Well, all enterprises use the internet now, right? I mean, a few years ago, they were on intranets, and then you had banks saying, we will never go onto a public network. And then over time, they have. And if you, as we do, I think, see Hedera as a new protocol layer on the internet, a new trust layer for the internet, then it makes perfect sense that over time enterprises will be using it, and they won't know. They'll either be using it because it's a really great way to connect their ERP systems via, their current message queue infrastructure, but via a trust layer.
Sure.
They'll be using it because it's the easiest and quickest way of doing reconciliation between businesses, or transferring ownership in the way that we've been talking about. Outside of the IT departments, no businesses really understand the layer of protocols that they're using day in, day out. We're talking about, well, no one ever mentions voice over IP anymore, but the layers that voice over IP set 15 years ago, more, are all part of what we're doing today on Zoom. So
sure.
Every enterprise will use Hedera. I have no doubt about it, and they won't know about it. So you've got the quote exactly right.
Good stuff.
All right, Brandon, you want to go ahead with the other question you had? I think it was with regards to the stablecoin.
Oh, well, yeah. Before we get to that, I actually I wanted to bring something else up. I did some FUD busting lately, and if anybody doesn't know what that is, it's fear, uncertainty, and doubt. And Rob, you're one of the people that I lean on when I have technical concerns or questions. What do you have to say to those that cast doubt over Hedera's tech and vision?
To dig a bit deeper, to actually understand what you're criticizing before you start opening your mouth, to be very careful about what projects that you do support and which ones that you start casting shade on, because it starts looking like you're a paid hitman there.
Yeah.
And on the internet, nothing is deleted. So you have to be very careful what you put your name to, because some of these comments don't date well.
Yeah.
Don't age well.
Sure.
And I think you're absolutely right calling him out, because that was a long piece that he put a lot of effort into, and it was consistently wrong. And I don't think that those YouTubers who are make a living out of their following should get away with that kind of slander, and it's YouTube slander.
So we'll try to hold him to account.
Well, yeah. Apparently, he keeps on deleting the links to yours in his comment. So,
that's okay. That's all right.
The timing was a bit suspect as well.
Yeah.
The timing of his video, of, closely following a supportive one. But this happens on the internet all the time, doesn't it? So
yeah,
we've got a very active community now, especially over the last couple of months. The community has grown very rapidly. The social media presence for Hedera has grown hugely as well. So that's we have the legions to thank for that level of engagement that we now have. And the criticisms are very easily torn down. There's an ongoing narrative around Hedera, which has been proven wrong again and again and again. And I think it's only a matter of time before people start realizing they just sound foolish by repeating it.
Yeah. Jesse, did you?
Deliberately not repeated it, so that, there aren't sound bites. But it's that all you have to do is dig a bit deeper, and you realize that all that FUD is groundless.
Yeah.
So,
Rob, to get back to the question that Jesse was referring to, the Eftpos stablecoin is one of the first tokenization use cases that was announced for Hedera. When the proof of concept was announced, I think they mainly were going to use HCS. Now with the Hedera tokenization service live, are there plans to utilize that instead?
Yeah, we thought quite long and hard about that. The proof of concept, for those who didn't know, and we announced it, I think, last July, was our first kind of engagement looking at the Hedera as kind of next generation tech to support some of the digital strategy initiatives that I talked about earlier. And we wanted to look at micropayments. So micropayments, for me, being a payments guy, being one of the killer apps, I think, for Hedera. But micropayments at the extremely tiny end of the spectrum, because we've got working payments infrastructure here in Australia, but what we don't have and what no one has is is next generation infrastructure that will support Internet of Things, device to device, machine to machine, tiny transactions, smart cities, that sort of stuff. So we need to be in an informed position, and by going through that technical proof of concept, it wasn't a commercial one, it was a technical one. We established a stablecoin. I built stablecoin platforms on other networks before, so that was a good entry point. We could bring in a wallet because we were acquiring a wallet. Well, we used Miko. Miko's a great partner of ours in the identity space, and they've got a great identity wallet. So we were able to kind of combine identity credentials and a stablecoin. And a stablecoin in the way that you take money, you escrow it, and you issue the equivalent value in that token. So the on-ramp and the off-ramp are the kind of the legs that you need to take and redeem the fiat, but everything else within this ecosystem can be used with the stablecoin. HTS was around. We spoke to the Hedera team about it. It was pre-launch, so but it was ready to go. We spent quite a lot of time considering the architecture, and HTS is great for tokenizing anything, as I've said. But when you're working with financial institutions, the path of least resistance is private permissioned networks, because there's a tendency to, quite rightly, to want to protect and put up a fence. So the design pattern that we chose to use was the AppNet and HCS kind of architecture, because you can protect the AppNet in the same way as Hyperledger or R3's Corda does, and so having that private permissioned closed system, but plugged into HCS for transparency and for decentralization of that node architecture worked really well for us. Would I do it on HTS? I mean, as a second phase, we've been looking at HTS and where that can come. I think bringing HTS and HCS together is really cool. And there are lots of new use cases or different business models that you can develop with the two in combination. But for financial services, I think that having that AppNet approach is appropriate. You still get all the basic fundamental, hugely beneficial properties of HCS, but you have it in a way which it's easier to sign off within a financial institution or a payments institution, because you can demonstrate security.
Oh,
with HTS, everything's on the chain, so everything's transparent.
Yeah,
and that's okay for pretty much everything. And in time, maybe it'll be okay for units of value as well, which are fiat denominated. But we're taking slow steps towards in that direction.
All right, I've got a little curveball here. Are you guys familiar with the movie Office Space? Rob, I'm not sure if that's made its way over. It's a very popular movie here in America called Office Space.
I think it's over 20 years old now.
Yeah, it's a classic.
Okay.
You've got to check it out, Rob. The whole premise of it is this disgruntled office worker, and he's an accountant or something in a very nondescript sort of cubicle style job. And he figures out a way where he can siphon off a penny from each transaction the company makes or something, so nobody would ever notice it's missing. But what he doesn't realize is that the volume is so great, he ends up with like millions of dollars. And of course, the chaos ensues. But it's just kind of, I just thought of that. It kind of reminds me, we're talking about micropayments.
I know the film, but doesn't Richard Pryor do that in Superman 2 or Superman 3 as well with Chris Reeve? Exactly the same thing happens. Maybe I don't know which film precedes the other one, but what's your point, Jesse?
No point. Just watch the movie. I think you'll get a kick out
Oh,
of it.
okay.
And I do have a question in there, though. Just to follow up on that. I know it was the proof of concept was announced, I think maybe around summertime with Eftpos last July or so. And then subsequently, obviously, Eftpos has come on as a council member with none other than Mr. Rob as the entrepreneur in residence. So great to see that. I wonder now that it's a little bit more transparent, Eftpos has been announced, if there's any sort of developments you can share along the lines of the development of that proof of concept and how that rolls out and what that might look like here.
Yeah, so what we've got now is a technical platform that demonstrates capability that no one else has, this micropayments capability. And we've got lots of members, there are 19 scheme members, who both are interested in what we've done there and also interested in the benefits of being on the governing council. So there's an ongoing conversation around that. Like I said before, it was a technical proof of concept, so we now need to commercialize that, and our preferred route is to do that with a partner. So we're talking to organizations that want to take that to market with us. I also mentioned Miko because my other hat is the digital identity business, Connect ID. And we're working with Miko on that. Miko have also adopted integration with Hedera. So we're looking at ways to incorporate decentralized or self-sovereign identity within the identity ecosystem as well. The current framework is federated. So federated is the normal approach to national digital identity infrastructure that you see around the world. But self-sovereign identity is emerging, or has been emerging, as a very strong player, and you need a distributed ledger really to make that work, whether it just be for verifiable credentials or for DIDs, decentralized identifier documents. And as luck would have it, a number of the Hedera executives come from the identity industry, so it's really useful to bounce ideas off Mance and a few others who I won't name here, but they're very strong on identity. Paul Madsen is an identity guy through and through, so we have some very good conversations about what that might look like. And then there's the actual one that I keep mentioning, so IoT, Internet of Things, microtransactions, and what that looks like in a kind of next generation state. So I'm pretty excited across all of those things. We're pretty well placed actually to kind of have a purview across the landscape and to apply it where appropriate. The other thing about being on the governing council, and for us, it's probably one of the key benefits, in addition to getting an insight on the development of the technology and being able to influence the direction of travel. It's the collaboration opportunities. So those council members are all there because they see the benefits of a technology like this to their businesses, but don't generally have those kind of collaborative opportunities with other businesses outside their sector, or a kind of open sight into what other people are doing with similar technology, which kind of creates the innovative thinking. So once you come with an innovative and open mindset, and you see what other businesses are doing on the same technology you've got, then it produces use cases that you may not already have thought about. And HCS and now HTS are services at a low enough level that allow you to actually build all sorts of different capability that has business value on top of that. And seeing other businesses, huge businesses investing time and resource and money and effort into building and bringing these things to market is really invigorating. And for Eftpos, which is down in Australia and doesn't usually have the opportunity to talk to the likes of Google and IBM and FIS and Nomura Bank and Deutsche Telekom and all the rest of them, it's wonderful, and it's wonderful to see how the combinations and the sharing of information works.
Rob, do you have time for one more question?
Yeah, absolutely. Go for it.
Okay. So I've been impressed with the development on Hedera, the introduction of both the Hedera Consensus Service and Hedera Token Service within the past 12 months. Another talented developer suggested that like an HBAR locking service would come in handy for some applications. Do you have any insight into this or additional services that might be useful?
Yes, I have to be guarded because there's roadmap items that are public, and there are roadmap items that I'm now party to. There's a lot of things coming down the track which are improvements. And one of the things I'm particularly excited about is the new Hedera improvement process, the HIPS, which was announced I think last month by Lehman. So this enables the community to actually suggest changes to the network and the network services, and we're starting to see some really interesting left field ideas coming in as well as center field. So I know that there are some really cool things happening, and this year as well. And we've all seen the published roadmap, and that should be exciting enough. But layered on top of that, there's some other stuff as well, which will make for the year of scale to be really exciting.
Well, thank you so much, Rob, for joining us here on Hedera Forum. We're so glad you can make some time for us as a returning guest, and I guess that puts you. It's like Saturday Night Live. If you're a returning guest a certain amount of times, you get like a certain amount of status. So you've already reached entrepreneur in residence. You've reached Legionnaire up to general. And you're sitting on the council, so the only next achievement I see is like a VIP of the Hedera Forum, maybe, and you've got to come out 5 times, I think, to get that.
Yeah.
5-timer.
Yeah.
We should try and tokenize that.
Okay.
Yeah. Good call. Perfect.
Thank you so much, Rob and Brandon. As always, we'll catch up with you guys soon, and thank you so much.
See you, everybody.
Thanks, guys. Cheers. Bye.